Hello, and thank you for joining me for Sunday School. This week's lesson is on teaching. I will be reading two passages out of the Connect Bible, published by Spark House. The first passage is from the book of Matthew, chapter 5, verses 1 through 11. Jesus began the Sermon on the Mount with this list of people who are blessed, which is called the Beatitudes. Jesus was not creating a formula for how to be blessed by God. He wanted the people to see that they were already blessed and that God already loved them. So book of Matthew, chapter 5, verses 1 through 11. When Jesus saw the crowds, he went up the mountain, and after he sat down, his disciples came to him. Then he began to speak and taught them, saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people revile you and persecute you, and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven, for in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you." And then the second reading I'm going to do is also from the book of Matthew. This time it's chapter 7. The verses are 24 to 29. And this passage comes from the end of one of Jesus' teachings called the Sermon on the Mount. Jesus calls us to not just listen to what he's teaching us, but to go out and do something about it. Living out Jesus' word gives us a strong foundation to stand on in the storms and struggles of life. So Matthew chapter 7, verses 24 through 29. "Everyone then who hears these words of mine and acts on them will be like a wise man who built his house on rock. The rain fell, the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on that house, but it did not fall, because it had been founded on the rock. And everyone who hears these words of mine and does not act on them will be like a foolish man who built his house on sand. The rain fell, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat against that house, and it fell, and great was its fall. Now when Jesus had finished saying these things, the crowds were astounded at his teaching, for he taught them as one having authority and not as their scribes." Now please watch the video on teaching.
It's not like Mr. Lindstrom to be late.
Didn't you guys hear? Mr. Lindstrom finally decided to take the plunge and pursue a career in professional clogging.
That doesn't sound like Mr. Lindstrom at all. He was always so rigid and structured.
Ugh, tell me about it.
He was my favorite teacher.
His replacement should be coming any minute.
Oh, a clean slate. My abysmal track record erased by Mr. Lindstrom's passion for folk dance.
This could turn everything on its head.
But I've already oriented myself to the curriculum. We've been scheduled to be learning about the War of 1812 for the last 9 minutes.
Hello, children. My name is Lucy Lucky, and I will be your new history teacher. Now, did anyone notice anything odd about my entrance?
You came in through the window.
Yes, but why did I come in through the window?
Ooh, because you're a vampire.
What's your name, young man?
Todd?
I like your attitude, Todd. Have some penny candy.
Ooh, sweet and thrifty.
Todd's correct. You're a vampire?
He wasn't correct in the content, but he was correct in his enthusiasm. Now, let's go over the rules. This manual consists of the rules deemed necessary by your school to assure that you're properly educated. But all these rules are really trying to do just two things. These are the only two rules in my classroom.
Wow, only 2 rules?
And none of them concerning phone usage?
All I ask is that you give 150% and you go overboard. I want you to take risks.
You had me at overboard, but I have to warn you, I'm not the best at learning. My theory is that I have holes in my brain.
It's because what you're learning isn't capturing your imagination. You have to find out what inspires you. Then those brain holes will be like a net.
That's all well and good, Miss Lucky, but we have a statewide test next Tuesday we're supposed to be studying for.
Oh, your teacher left me the test curriculum.
Miss Lucky! If I don't pass the statewide test, I won't be able to run for Senate.
Becky, what year was the First Continental Congress?
I don't know that.
But you answered it correctly on last year's statewide test, don't you remember?
Of course I don't remember. I already passed the test.
Becky, is your heart really in rote memorization? What's the point of learning it if you're just gonna forget it immediately?
Miss Lucky!
You're up so high.
How inspiring. You're dangerously close to the lights.
Children! Unless you commit your heart and mind to what you're trying to learn, it's not worth anyone's time. Now, what are you passionate about learning?
Typography.
Great! Write it on the board. Joey?
Ooh, dinosaurs!
Fantastic! Up on the board!
Miss Lucky's great, isn't she?
Yeah, she's letting me do a report on bone hunters of the Old West.
And I get to design a historical newspaper.
I learned all the provinces of Canada.
But what happens come test Tuesday, huh, guys? Then what? We'll be totally unprepared.
Becky, I don't know if you heard me correctly. I learned all the provinces.
But that isn't on the state test.
I was so inspired that I started planning a trip to Canada to learn about the province's history and culture.
That's enough. We need to rehearse the Sermon on the Mount. Everybody, get out your scripts. Okay, Joey, according to my research, what Jesus is offering is a vision that turns many of the norms upside down.
Sounds pretty controversial.
Oh yeah, he was the kind of teacher that shifted people's perspective on what the rules were even for.
Why would he do that?
Back then, a lot of the religious leaders were interpreting Moses' laws in really strict ways. God's people were following the laws to follow the laws, instead of following them to be brought closer to God.
So to remind people what the laws were for, Jesus took the 613 laws of Moses and boiled them down to their essence. Love God and love each other.
Hey, just like Miss Lucky's class rules.
What?
Miss Lucky took the school's bajillion rules and made them into 2 rules.
Hey, that's right.
What a striking parallel.
It totally is. There's no point in acing a test if I don't actually apply what I'm learning to my life. Just like there's no point in following God's law if we're not focused on our relationships with God and one another. How could I have missed this?
It's all right, Beck. I miss most things.
You know what? I think Miss Lucky is my new favorite teacher.
Next to Jesus.
Yes, next to Jesus. Speaking of Jesus, take it from the top, Joey.
Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth.
For this week's prayer, I would like to recite together the prayer that Jesus taught us. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.